It's great to be with NYSUT. It's family, even virtually, and while we have faced so many challenges this year, frankly, none is as great as, when we lose people close to us. And our family is mourning the terrible loss with the passing of Bill Scott. And our hearts go out to his wife, Carolyn, and their children, and to Bill's colleagues in the STA. And just, I'm glad you took a moment for all the people that we have loved and lost, Andy. But I just want to say, I just adore you. And so thank you for everything. Really.
Thank you, Randi. Love you, and you are a true friend. Sometimes you act in all different ways. Sometimes you're the referee, sometimes you're the warrior, but we can always, always, always depend on you. Thank you so much. God bless you, Randi.
And vice versa. Love you.
Take it away.
And I will. And, I also want to thank Barbara Bowen, who is stepping down from the PSC presidency to Queens College. She's returning to Queens College to her faculty position. And thank you, Barbara, for your enduring commitment to justice, to our students, to our members. And, Andy, I listened to Andy's speech, so you don't need me to tell everybody who's watching just how challenging this year has been. And the NYSUT page in solemn remembrance to our colleagues is an example of that. And look, some of us have lost loved ones to COVID or to other reasons. Many of us have gotten sick ourselves. Many have felt the other effects of the COVID pandemic, family members losing jobs, kids being isolated. And frankly, COVID has affected us all. And throughout all of this, NYSUT members have shown up, often on the front lines, often working harder than ever, close to burning out, or frankly, a lot of our members have burnt out, turning on a dime constantly. The nurses, the techs, the probation officers, the safety inspectors, the school counselors and custodians, the teachers, the paraprofessionals, all of you. And for all you do and all you have done, especially during this nightmare, thank you. And seriously, if you don't take anything else out of what I'm saying, just these two words, thank you. But with all the struggles, as Andy just talked about, and Jonathan talked about, there's real hope on the horizon. A new president, the infusion of federal funds, the availability of effective vaccines. Look, I felt great hope from the CDC announcement this week that if you are fully vaxxed, there is no need to wear a mask outside. But the dawning we see now did not happen by magic. It was your activism. It was your willingness to do your part to fight the crises we confront. Your willingness to do your part in the political arena. As Andy said, we won the most important election of our lifetimes last November. NYSUT members have always been the AFT's GOT superheroes. NYSUT members have always traveled to battleground states. They've always knocked on doors. They've always worked to elect allies of working people, both in New York and throughout the country. And yes, of course, COVID changed what GOT looked like last year. And I know people thought I was really nuts. Okay, I am a little crazy. But people thought I was nuts that we were going to do a 30-day get out the vote trip, COVID compliant, very safely. And we did go from coast to coast. But your activism didn't change either. And we saw scores and scores of NYSUT volunteers who actually helped Joe Biden get over that finish line. And today, with Joe Biden, we have a president who is doing his utmost to provide help to all Americans and to heal our country's wounds. Someone who believes in public education and in higher education. A president who sees unions as a tool for fairness and opportunity and is using the power of government as a force for good to pave the way for a more equitable recovery. Indeed, just today, the Washington Post reported that Biden talks like the most pro union president since the New Deal. Well, that's because he is the most pro union president since FDR. But it's not just the president, it's Vice President Kamala Harris, who, as a candidate, was the first one to put out an education plan. And then there's the First Lady, herself a teacher, who invited Becky Pringle and myself to the White House for a town hall the first full day her husband was in office. And then there is Majority Leader Charles Schumer. You know him, he's our senator, who worked and is working daily, probably hourly, with President Biden to build back better, with the American Rescue Plan, the American Families Plan, the American Jobs Plan. I loved it, personally, when President Biden gave our senator complete credit for navigating through a 50-50 Senate, the American Rescue Plan, the most robust rescue plan probably ever. And you know Chuck. Sorry, we all call him Chuck. He has always had our back, and now he is key to the recovery of our nation, its emotional and economic recovery, as well as our ability to ensure everyone can thrive in this multiracial, multi-generational, multicultural place we call America. Andy talked about it already, so I'll just kind of click through a little bit. The American Rescue Plan is a lifeline for families and for our country. It cuts child poverty. It extends aid to the unemployed. It increases food benefits. It helps families pay their bills and keep a roof over their heads. The rescue plan gives us the resources for safe in-person learning and the resources to support the academic, social, and emotional needs of our kids and to support educators in that endeavor. It helps states and local communities deal with all the budget issues we have as a result of COVID. And frankly, this should end the supplanting of funds that Governor Cuomo likes to do, something that is really annoying after we have fought so hard, all of us, to get these federal funds. And Andy talked about the magnitude, $24 billion in state and local aid, colleges and universities receiving $2.6 billion, $1.3 billion in child care relief funding. This is not national numbers. This is New York's numbers, including the $9 billion in K-12 funding and the $334 million in COVID testing for schools, which I call the Andy Pallotta COVID testing bill because he's fought so hard to get this key safety measure. And you see these funds in the state budget. The budget increases direct aid to public schools by $1.4 billion this year, rising to $4 billion once it's fully phased in. And frankly, and I'm so glad you honored Jonathan because we have been fighting for this. I feel so old. We've been fighting for this for decades. As someone who testified in the first CFE case back in 1993 and was arrested blocking the Capitol when Governor Pataki ignored us, it's personal to me to see foundation aid funding finally becoming a reality. And there are other important initiatives there. The budget deal freezes tuition at SUNY and CUNY. It restores cuts to SUNY and CUNY. It makes a large increase into the tuition assistance program. And yes, there's much to celebrate, but we need this kind of foundation aid that we have for K-12 for public colleges. And there's not enough for New York's public teaching colleges, which has carried the state through the COVID crisis. And the federal money created hazard pay for these hospitals, and we need to create that hazard pay in the state. These members in these hospitals risk their lives for us, and we need to help remember and say and honor them for that. So we still have to keep fighting. And while we see other states reopening in person now, let's be clear, most school districts in New York have been in person since September, and none of this has been easy. I know many of you have gone like a ping pong table from remote to hybrid to concurrent to in person and back again between all of these things. And many of you in healthcare and other government work never left the front lines. We do what we have to do every day, but more than any other year, we're tired, we're burnt out, the isolation gets harder. We're over the pandemic, but the pandemic isn't over. So be safe and take care of yourself. And we have to give ourselves the space and grace to get through this. Before I end, I want to talk about a couple more quick things. Number one, something else that hasn't been easy to reckon with is the racism that we've seen. You are doing that kind of reckoning with the Many Threads program, but we must do more. And I don't know about you, but my first reaction was relief when I was at the George Floyd Square when I heard the verdict. Finally, justice or accountability would be served. Now, you might wonder, why was I at the George Floyd Square? Well, I was there with Marsha Howard, who is an AFT member who's been keeping watch over that square for nearly a year. And during our Get Out the Vote tour, Fed and I talked to her, and she needed a leave of absence to be able to stay in that square. And the work that she was doing to create opportunity. So just like the work we're doing in Messina, and just like the work we're doing in McDowell, we're doing that work with Marsha to create opportunity for the kids in that space and community in Minneapolis. Kids such as the student who took the video in of George Floyd having a knee in his neck by that police officer, a student, by the way, of Marsha's. Since I've been fully vaccinated, I've visited several member work sites, not just in Minnesota, but in New York and elsewhere. The common denominator on all these visits, obviously in addition to the safety measures, is joy. And our masks may hide our smiles, but they don't hide the smiles. People are so happy to be back together, to get back to their routines, to get back to a glimpse of the more normal times to come. And the visit I had in White Plains with Secretary Cardona was so emblematic of this. And by the way, I'm going to Carl Place next week. But I can't say enough about Kara McCormick-Lyons and the culture she and the White Plains Superintendent, Dr. Joe Ricca, have fostered. I teased Sam from Yonkers, by the way, a couple of days ago, that her superintendent needs some mentoring from Dr. Ricca about how to work with others. But what I thought about most after that visit is the send-off we received. First, the high school mariachi band serenaded us, and then the middle school jazz band got into the action. I saw a lot of smiles, and I guarantee under every mask there was a smile. I know there was under mine. So you can see I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic about the country. I'm optimistic that we can be back in school across the country this fall, 5 days a week. We know kids learn best in person. We know they need to be with their peers and supportive adults. So this fall is about reopening, helping students recover, and reimagining what education can be. And the funds from the Recovery Act will help support students' social, emotional, and academic needs, which we know are vast after what everybody's been through. We have long had a goal of 25,000 community schools to wrap services around, and this is the time to get to that goal. We've never had a better chance of that becoming a reality. But we have a chance to do more. We have a chance to reimagine schooling. The disruption caused by the pandemic creates an opportunity to think and do things differently, focusing on equity and excellence, including rich coursework like science and civics and project-based learning. And yes, rethinking assessments, as Jonathan said and as Andy said. Testing should not drive our work. It should measure our work. And the Biden administration, as much as I think they've done a great job, they got it wrong when it came to not fully waiving standardized tests this year. Because we have to have the freedom to make learning interesting and relevant, learning that helps students think critically. And yes, that's fun. In short, learning that helps young people thrive, helping students' passion meet purpose. And that starts with learning, not testing. But I can't stress enough, as I end, that safety is the vehicle to help schools stay open in person. Safety is not an obstacle, it's the roadmap. And yes, it's been hard in New York this year. Districts where parents didn't want masks, and districts where parents still don't think schools are safe, all in the same state. But we know that the safety roadmap we laid out, layered mitigation, testing, and vaccine access, the glue of collaboration and the respect for educators that I saw last week in White Plains, and the resources that this new Congress and the administration have delivered, those three things will turn the page on COVID and will be the road to renaissance of public education. So I end where I started, by just saying thank you. We all have our stories and our struggles from this year. And doing your job may have been the hardest thing you had to deal with this year. And yet you did it. You dug deep and you did the best you could. No one's life has been unchanged by COVID, but we're here and we got through this together. And we're looking forward to better days, knowing, as we always say at the AFT, that together we can accomplish what would be impossible to do on our own. So thank you, and I can't wait till we're all in person again. And please stay on as Andy recognizes locals that are celebrating their 50th and their 70th anniversaries. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Randi, for your powerful words. They are an encouragement to all of us. Thank you again for all you've done, all you've brought to us here in New York, especially because you are a New Yorker and you are a NYSUT member. God bless you. Thank you so much.
You too, my friend.
While you're here today, we would like to recognize locals that are celebrating an important milestone. We have two locals who are celebrating 50 years of affiliation with the American Federation of Teachers. These locals are on the screen before you. Franklin Square Federation of Teachers, AFT 2146, Anne Marie Giarizzo, President. Bellport Teachers Association, AFT 2193, Wayne White, President. We also have two locals who are celebrating 75 years of affiliation with the AFT. These names are before you. Yonkers Federation of Teachers, AFT 0860, Samantha Rosado Ciriello, President. And Mount Vernon Federation of Teachers, AFT 0865, Corrine D'Amato, President. Plaques will be sent to the local presidents after the RA. Congratulations to all of you.